All right, as we continue to work on our smart home project in our brand new home, we reach the point where most people actually start, which is with a smart thermostat. Now, I've actually used a first-gen Ecobee product in a previous home that I owned. In my last place, I did install a Nest smart thermostat, but for this house, we are back to Ecobee, and especially this one is their Smart Thermostat Premium, which comes with a couple of things that I wanted specifically for this house. And I decided to go back to Ecobee, one, because I actually liked their interface a little bit better than Nest. I think their app worked a little bit better, it was a little more intuitive. And I just thought overall, the experience of using it, I liked better. I like that it comes with a sensor. We are in a 2-story house with a basement. So you've got the unit itself, which is a sensor for whatever space it's in, but it has a remote sensor so it can independently track the temperature in the basement, which can be helpful. And then the other piece was it integrates with their Doorbell product, which I went ahead and picked up too, because this house, again, has 0 smart home features. If you saw my video on Amazon Alexa and our choice of using that to control our smart home, because we don't have a doorbell either, which is the other common thing. So the fact that I could get the thermostat and the doorbell, and that these two things will supposedly work together, in that when somebody rings the doorbell, the video from the doorbell feed will show up on the thermostat, which for the younger kids in the house who don't have a smartphone or whatever, maybe it's handy, maybe it's gimmicky, I don't know, we're gonna find out. But the first thing we're gonna find out is what's in these boxes. All right, so we're going to start off with the thermostat itself, and as is the case with everything today, it's a really, really nice box. It's got this almost like origami cover on it with a nice picture there, before we get to the actual box itself with the unit. And there it is. All right, so this is everything that's in the box, and of course you've got the unit itself, you've got the remote sensor, and I think you can run multiple of these if you want to. That comes with a couple of different mounting options, a pedestal for if you want to like set it more on a shelf, and then this guy I think is more for like wall mounting if you want to go that way. You get a nice little base plate here. This is purely cosmetic. If the thermostat you're replacing is big and left a big kind of mark behind, you can mount this to the wall. If it's smaller and you don't need it, you don't have to use that if you don't want to. All right. This is the plate you actually mount to the wall and attach all your various wires to, which is really nice because this is the fiddly bit, attaching your different wires to all the different places you might need them. So you can actually screw this into the wall, attach all the wires to it pretty simply and easily, and then this piece matches up with the back, and it just sort of clicks into place the unit itself, so you're not dealing with this big heavy unit on the wall while you're trying to deal with all the wires. So that's nice. Some basic hardware. This is an addition I've seen before that wasn't in my original one. When you are wiring this up to your house, especially if you have an older house, you may be missing a C or what's called a common wire, which is the wire that basically provides continuous power to your thermostat. It used to be that thermostats didn't need their own power, or maybe your thermostat had like a little battery in it because it's all that was needed. So the furnace, if it's an older furnace, may not be wired with a C wire, which gives you that constant power. This is something you would actually install at the furnace level and converts any 4-wire system at the furnace level to something. It basically doubles up a couple of the wires and then converts the newly unused one into a C wire. So that was a task you used to have to call in an HVAC specialist for. Now they just give you this little dongle. I'm hoping we don't need it because I already have a smart thermostat, so I'm hoping that I've already got the C wire, but they go ahead and include this in the box for you. If you need it, that is great. And then finally, speaking of all those wires, you get some labels. Your existing thermostat is going to have all the wires hooked up into labeled ports. They may or may not be color-coded. They may or may not be color-coded correctly. So before you remove the wires, you're supposed to label them. And of course, these labels match the wiring positions on the faceplate. So that's just a nice little installation tip for you there. And then finally, a how to install your smart thermostat, which essentially comes down to please install the app, because the app and walks you through it all, which of course we will do. All right, and while we're at it, let's go ahead and do the doorbell. And there it is. It's a doorbell. Doorbells are a little less intensive to install than the thermostat. I mean, you know, a little more basic, just a couple of wires for power and signal. But you've got, of course, your instruction booklet, and then you've got all of your various hardwares. This one particularly is for a wired doorbell because I have an existing wired doorbell. So it's anticipating that you have a wired doorbell feed. They do, of course, sell a wireless version that has a battery built into it. So if you don't have a doorbell already and you want one, or the doorbell's not in a convenient place, then you can do that if you like. All right, so included in the box is the basic mounting hardware you're going to need. This is the chime adapter, and it does actually have a small battery in it that is going to trickle charge basically off of the chime controls, because there is power coming from your existing chime. I think this is the part that would be different if you didn't have an existing chime and you were doing a purely standalone system. And then you also get a faceplate that allows you to angle it slightly. You can see this has got a slight angle to it. You know, when you put a doorbell that's just a doorbell, you don't really think about the location as long as people can push it and see where it is. If you have a camera built into your doorbell, you may want to angle it so that you can see a better angle on your front door if it's, say, mounted off to the side or mounted kind of goofily. Given where my setup is, I think we're going to need that. So I'm glad I have it. So installation of the Ecobee thermostat pretty much went as I expected. Removing the old unit revealed the wires, which I then labeled with the labels provided by Ecobee, even though the wires were themselves correctly color-coded. Figured better be safe than sorry. Only hitch I ran into was my single red cable. Wasn't sure which one to plug it into, so started off plugging it into R(h), which turned out to be wrong. If you only have a single red cable, which most people are going to have only one, you actually have to use RC. Once I figured that out, everything went as expected. Setup was very straightforward, a combination of using controls on the unit itself and then, of course, the app to get things set up there. It connected to my Wi-Fi no problem and asked me a lot of questions about my home, its size, and where the additional sensor unit would be placed, which, of course, in my case, was down in the basement. I set my desired temperatures for home and away, and didn't really mess with the scheduling function or anything like that. Previously, when I've had smart thermostats, I found the scheduling to be actually more trouble than it was worth. So this time I'm going to see what it's like to just let the thermostat call the shots based on what it thinks is going on. My thermostat is actually in a fairly central location, so it shouldn't have any problem detecting when there are people in the house and when there are not. The doorbell ended up being a little bit trickier, but nothing to do with Ecobee itself. The previous homeowner had apparently substituted out the doorbell as well, and in so doing stripped away the transformer that is used to power the outside doorbell, and the outside doorbell, even though it looked just like a simple button, was actually battery powered. So I purchased a off-the-shelf third-party transformer that just plugs into a standard outlet, and had to run a cable through my garage into the back of the doorbell. This is fine because I had access to it with a little bit of work, but could be an issue if you don't. So double check to make sure that you have wires running to your doorbell itself. As far as I can tell, Ecobee doesn't offer a battery-powered alternative, though there might be some third-party options. Because the previous homeowner had messed with the chime, that meant that the chime wasn't going to work, but that's actually okay because the thermostat itself became the chime, which I liked. And Of course, the party trick being the thing that I wanted more than anything, which was the video from the doorbell showing up on the thermostat. Now, this may or may not be something we use regularly, given that, of course, the video feed also shows up on your smartphone. But for the kids in the house who don't have access to the Ecobee account, this might be something helpful for them. The two-way communication, whether you're talking through your app on your phone or whether you're talking through the thermostat to the doorbell, which is something you can do and kind of fun, actually kind of works. In fact, it works better than my first gen Ring doorbell ever worked. So I really like that part of it.
So I would say that the audio quality is actually pretty decent for a doorbell talking to a thermostat. Yeah.
I was also able to get it working with Amazon Alexa, so I can talk to my thermostat and use Alexa to change temperature or mode. It will announce when the doorbell is pressed on my Alexa devices, if I so chose, and that all worked great and as I would expect. Only little hitch was when I added the doorbell to Alexa, there was no Ecobee listed under doorbell. Instead, I added it as a quote-unquote camera, and that still seemed to work, and it still seemed to recognize it as both a doorbell and a camera, so, whatever. The final piece of a bit of a surprise for me that I only discovered by accident is that there is Homekit integration for the Ecobee thermostat and doorbell, which I kind of turned on just to see how it worked because I have decided that Amazon Alexa is going to be my smart home provider of choice. Well, by turning on HomeKit, if somebody rings the doorbell and you're watching something on your Apple TV device, it will let you know and show the video preview straight on your Apple TV, which I have to say I didn't know I wanted, but now that I have it, I really want, and I'm pretty darned excited about. All right, so the Ecobee thermostat and doorbell, what do we think? Well, I really, really like them. Having used a previous generation of the Ecobee, I'd say this is a really good improvement. Not worth upgrading if you already have that one, unless you want some of the features we talked about in this video. But overall, a really solid product. And having used a Ring doorbell before, I really like this doorbell and certain things, especially the audio quality on the two-way communication with the doorbell, definitely works a lot better. The fact that these interact with each other is really helpful and maybe a little gimmicky, but depending on where your thermostat is in your house, especially if you have maybe a couple of thermostats, maybe you got one on the upper floor, the ability for that to talk to the doorbell and show you what's going on in the doorbell actually might be really helpful, or maybe one in the basement. In our house, the thermostat's actually not too far from just the door, but for security, say, if the kids are home by themselves and they want to see who's at the door before they open it or want to interact with somebody at the door before they unlock it, they can do that, and that is pretty neat. I also like that they're from the same company and they all work with the same app. I have a little bit of app fatigue because every smart switch and plug and everything has its own app if it's a different manufacturer. So the more that we can consolidate those things, I'm all in favor of that. And then of course it all works really well with Alexa, which is the thing kind of combining all these things together. So yeah, I would say as a whole, this is a really, really solid product. Price point is on par with anything else. And as of right now, I don't know of any other manufacturer who's manufacturing both a thermostat and a doorbell that talk to each other in the way that these two do. And Ecobee is a brand that's been around for a while. They have a really strong commercial side now. We're actually using Ecobee thermostats at my workplace, and they're using in schools. So they're not going anywhere as a company, and they're definitely investing in their app and their infrastructure. So you don't have to worry about what happens to my smart technology if the company goes out of business and the apps are no longer updated. They're not going anywhere. So yeah, I would say if you're looking for a smart home, thermostat, doorbell, one or the other, if you want to start with one and then add the other later on, you're certainly able to do that. And then as far as just all the caveats that were in the video, take that into account when you're looking for your solution at your home, because that is obviously going to make a difference. But if you're interested in either one of these, please check out the links in the video description. That really does help this channel out. Like and subscribe is always a good thing to do. And until I see you again, have a great day.